Hey, wait, that's a health violation. You can't do that! In such a short time, Hoyoverse's newest IP, Zenless Zone Zero, has become a game that's been ostracized by the wider gacha gaming audience, as it was, by all accounts, a Hoyoverse-developed game that was playing it safe while also releasing outside of the golden years of Hoyo's reputation in the gacha space, as Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail were seemingly cashing in on whatever goodwill the company had left from those who would spinelessly follow along in their wild ride. ZZZ's 2.0 livestream has just recently concluded, and the plans for what the ZZZ team have in mind to bring people back into the game look solid all around. Though, setting aside the free S-Rank standard character and free S-Rank standard W engine, as well as the 30 pulls we will be getting, I want to focus in on something that's more personal to me than just some rewards. Though I will happily take Arena. I've been sitting on 2 weeping cradles for God knows how long, and my soul can finally rest. I want to focus in on Ellen Jo, a character who I adore, and is one of, if not the biggest reasons why I installed the game in the first place. Ellen Jo's design, personality, and characterization in all of her promotional material leading up to version 1.0 of ZZZ is what sold me on the initial premise of the game. Ellen's trailers remain one of the best in emphasizing the double life perspective they were going for with ZZZ's setting, similarly to that kind of vibe you would get from playing a Persona game. Oh, hey look, it's the game with TVs that everyone doesn't hate. Unless you're one of those Twitter freaks who have been dogging this game for years. However, since the initial launch of the game, it has been made abundantly clear that Ellen's power budget was heavily restrained and choked out of her as more and more characters released that were far easier to play and team build around. So in this video, I want to go over Ellen's problems and what the ZZZ team have done to approach this issue based on what they had to show off in the live streams. Before I begin, I want to make something perfectly clear. No, I do not believe Miyabi is the reason Ellen has fallen off. Ellen has been suffering for a while now before Miyabi has entered the fray. The only reason people constantly compare these two characters is because they share the ice element. Newsflash, Miyabi power crept everyone. But if Miyabi is out of the picture, Ellen still struggles, even if she has the ice element all to herself, which is what I'm going to get into with this video. So without further ado, let's get started. Ellen's playstyle is simple to grasp. She is a basic attack-focused character who's meant to cycle through a loop of building flash freeze charges to empower her basic attacks. Rinse and repeat. Given the flow of Ellen's resource generation and expenditure, she is best used during stun periods to make the most out of her flash freeze charges, and to possibly even generate more before the stun period expires. The first issue we see with Ellen is that outside of her basic attacks and passive flow, the other aspects of her kit are undercooked. Her EX special attack, while pretty strong and can generate flash freeze charges for her, suffers from an incredibly high energy cost to use the first hit, let alone the second. And the flash freeze generated is not enough for even one full basic attack combo. As for her ultimate, the radius is just too small when compared to characters that came out in later 1.x versions. This extends to her chain attacks as well, which also suffer from a long animation on top of a small radius when compared to other damage dealers. The second problem is that even her basic attacks and passive itself suffer from a lack of ease of use. And Ellen, with 0 mindscapes, will need to perform 6 uncharged dash attacks or 2 charged dash attacks to cap out her flash freeze. Dodging an attack with Ellen will massively cut down on her charge time as she gains the quick charge effect, making her resource generation much faster. However, this requires you to spend more field time with Ellen out and be at the mercy of the enemy's attack frequency to get that dodge off. During this increased field time, the player is stuck in a perpetual catch-22 as attacking the enemy will expend the flash freeze stacks you're trying to build up in the first place, and waiting for the enemy to attack for a dodge is 3-star Shiyu clear suicide. This means most casual players will just opt to spam 2 charged dash attacks without the quick charge effect, putting them in vulnerable situations. The easiest solution to this is to just get Ellen's first mindscape by pulling a second copy of her, cutting down on her flash freeze generation to 2 uncharged dash attacks or 1 fully charged dash attack. On top of that, you gain critical chance generation through enhanced basic attacks, easing up on Ellen's drive disc stat requirements. While on the topics of Mindscapes, pulling an additional Ellen will let you segue her third enhanced basic attack into the second hit of her EX special attack through Mindscape 2, being a much more flexible option with a much lower energy costing combo that could be looped up to 3 times under normal circumstances. This Mindscape also gives Ellen's EX special up to 60% crit damage when you have at least 3 flash freeze charges in her possession. Since each EX special attack adds 1 flash freeze charge, every single one of those back-to-back EX specials will have the full crit damage bonus, assuming you initiate a basic combo with a full 6 flash freeze charges. Ellen's Mindscape 4 triples down on this even further by giving her a full 6 flash freeze charges and quick charge when an enemy is frozen or stunned, cutting out her setup time entirely. To top it all off, Ellen's third basic attack hit and dodge counter moves her to the opposite side of the enemy she was attacking when used. This can lead to awkward situations of being out of position with an enemy and taking a hit when you otherwise wouldn't have had you stayed in your original location. Ellen's third biggest issue is her viable teammate options. Ellen's bonus effect on her core passive can only be activated when she is paired with another Victoria Housekeeping Agent or another Ice Agent. This inevitably leaves her with only 2 viable options: Lycon and Sokaku. Lycon being a standard 5-star stunner with identical passive activation requirements and ice-resistant shred makes for a great teammate for her. However, his power budget limitations due to being a standard 5-star, coupled with him also being an Ice Victoria Housekeeping Agent, leaves so few options on the table for the last slot. This only really leaves Astra Yao or Caesar as your last 2 options. Astra Yao being a character every team is fighting for, and Caesar's decent if you just don't want to worry about getting locked in hit stuns, but beyond that, her buffs don't match the same DPS value as a proper support agent. You could also try using Lighter or Trigger as the third teammate, but Ellen's a character who wants to make the most out of a stun window, unlike Hugo, who just wants as many stun windows as you can throw at him. This leaves her only other teammate being Sokaku. But to keep Sokaku's problem short, I'm sure many would rather just use Ellen without her passive than try to work with Sokaku's kit. And while that is viable for some team compositions, let me remind you that no one would buy a brand new car if the AC wasn't working, so why would you pull a limited 5-star to put them in a team where they can't use their whole kit? Feels like shit to do, doesn't it? With all these elements in mind, I don't think simply inflating Ellen's damage multipliers would fix her, as her issues go deeper and are primarily based around how rough it is to play with her, rather than her numbers just not being big enough. So what did the ZZZ team reveal in the livestream to address these issues? Now, unfortunately, Ellen's rate of flash freeze generation issues cannot be addressed easily as they are heavily tied to Mindscapes 1, 2, and 4. Doing so would only create massive negative PR from anyone who pulled for multiple Ellen copies with these bonuses in mind. With that being said, it looks like the ZZC team have went ahead and addressed Ellen's other big issues, and I'm quite satisfied with the results. Let's take a look. Starting off with her moveset, the Blade of Frost gear item from Hollow Zero has been fully integrated into Ellen's standard kit. A projectile-based move with dodge properties at the start of the move that can be activated after Basic Attack 3, EX Special Attack 2, or from a dodge counter. With Mindscape 2 Ellen, this allows you to pull off an insanely long loop with massive damage. Before I get too excited, it's too early to say if this is a one-to-one implementation of Blade of Frost, or if some aspects of it have been toned down or left out. Moving on, Ellen's dash attack now has parry attributes built in, giving Ellen some much needed protection as she is generating flash freeze charges. It also looks like these parries can segue into a completely new counterattack move for Ellen. It'll be hard to say if this move will see practical use cases or if it's just too situational to get use out of, but I'm hopeful that it will find a place in her playstyle. Capping off the buffs, we have a massive buff to her core passive. First off, the crit damage increasing effects of her passive have now been applied to seemingly all other attacks in her kit, raising the damage she deals across the board in her entire moveset. The second biggest thing is that one of Ellen's bonus effect activation requirements have been changed from needing an Ice Agent to a stun agent, greatly taking the pressure off of players needing to bring Lycon with her on her team. Off the rip, Lighter will now be the best S-rank stunner for her, as you no longer need to go without Ellen's bonus effect or be shackled by Sokaku if you wanted to use Lighter. This also opens Ellen up to all other stunners in the game and their respective synergies, as well as any future stunner added to the game. As someone who has been using my Ellen Jo regularly since the launch of Zenless Zone Zero, I am very happy with the level of attention and care that has been put in to trying to give some much needed TLC to everyone's favorite Shark Maid. If future character buffs come to other agents, I hope they all get the same love and care as they have given Ellen Jo. And with that, I have said all I really wanted to about the character buffs for Ellen Jo in version 2.0 of Zenless Zone Zero. Truth be told, I doubt version 2.0 of ZZZ will have the same level of impact on the game as 2.0 and Renacita did for Wuthering Waves. However, I will remain hopeful that this game can continue to get the attention it needs to keep going until we can finally see something worth all the failures made along the way. I still believe that ZZZ has the potential through Trial by Fire to come out ahead of Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, so long as the ZZZ team can remain as disconnected from the stagnating conglomerate that is Hoyoverse for as long as possible. I hope this game can continue to carve out its own niche as the modern gacha space starts to see some new heavy hitters taking chunks out of the existing competition later into 2025 and into 2026 as well. But until then, this was an empowering video for my fellow Shark mates, and I'm clocking out.